test. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to start off by wishing you all a very happy Amani Women's Day. And thank you for joining us at the 6th edition of Lady Leaders, a network established by Amman Tourism College to celebrate women in tourism. Due to the COVID-19 situation, we have decided to conduct this edition of Lady Leaders online. For those of you who are new to our platform, I'd like to give you a sneak peek into our previous editions of the Lady Leader event. So sit back, relax, have a cup of coffee or tea, and enjoy the show.
play an active role in encouraging women to join the tourism industry. The network was opened in 2015. حكاية إبرز الصغيرة البسيطة. And this is inspiring life story.
I hope you enjoyed our short video of last year's edition of the Lady Leaders event. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce our speaker. First up will be Manal El-Kiyumi, the marketing manager at OCEC. Second up would be Anna Marie Dowling, the area general manager of IHG and the general manager of Intercontinental Muscat. And thirdly, this will be followed by Wisal al-Rashdi, an Omani licensed tour guide. And finally, our last speaker is Ghania al-Mawali, client services account manager at Amman Sale. Before I start, I'd like to give a brief bio of our next speaker, who is Manal El-Kiyumi. Manal El-Kiyumi is the marketing manager at communications at Oman Convention Exhibition Center. And since joining the company in December 2018, in this capacity, El-Kiyumi's responsibilities include strategy development and execution, as well as corporate branding, digital media, and media relations. Prior to joining OCEC, El-Kiyumi held the position of head of communications with Asiad Group, Oman's flagship logistics group, which he was responsible for the execution of the company's integrated marketing plan, incorporating campaign experience across a range of communication disciplines, including internal communications, public relations, corporate social responsibility, and journalism. El-Kiyumi holds a Bachelor's of Communication and Information Studies in Journalism from the American University of Dubai, as well as a certificate in Middle East Studies.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for inviting us today, and thank you for being here. I am so privileged and honored to be sharing this morning with all of you. First, I would like to congratulate each one of you for being amazing at what you do, whether you're a sister, a mother, a daughter, or perhaps all of that combined. And thank you for always our supporters, our brothers, fathers, husbands, colleagues, and the other half of the community. Since I have the honor to be the first speaker of the day, I thought my speech will be light and I hope inspiring. So every time I hear about someone's achievement, especially ladies, not just inspire me, but so many others to work harder, to be better, to make a dent whenever and wherever we can. So I am very, very proud to be speaking alongst with you ladies. So there are moments in life when you stop and ask yourself, how did I get here? This is definitely one of those moments for me. And I find myself going back to the very beginning, back to my roots. That's why I thought of sharing with you the very beginning of my life, at least what I consider the real life. I was born in a great humble family, and I had a great childhood. I would say I have made my parents proud 99% of the time. Okay, a little bit of exaggeration in personal achievement is allowed from time to time, don't you think? Before I continue my humble story, I wanted to emphasize that us Omani women are very fortunate to be born in a country where both men and women are granted equal rights and opportunities. That being said, I was even more fortunate where I was born in an average family but very supportive. I have 8 sisters and 6 brothers, and we were given equal opportunities. And I have to emphasize on equal opportunities given both genders because it might seem a very normal thing, but in a lot of developing countries around the world, often than none, this is an exception. It is actually a privilege that my first working experience where I discovered that what defines me as a person is my passion and my hard work, not my gender, is when my father trusted me to be working with him in a very young age because I was the only one from my 13 siblings who took the work seriously. So I tend to be given the impression that I was pampered and spoon-fed, but in reality, that wasn't the case. I was grade 7, so I'm not very sure what age that makes me, maybe 11 or 12, when I started working with my father in his humble office in processing and clearing transactions. So it's something like Senate, but back in the days. First, I was a PA, so my job wasn't very important because my dad was still young. He still remembers all his appointments and he can answer the calls. Then I had to upgrade. So my present is important and my role is valid. So I started learning from his employee, and he only had one, how to work on the computer. And I have learned the system, and that was my first real job. I had to meet clients, I had to answer the calls, I had to come on time, and all the documents had to finish on time. And let me tell you one thing, my father wasn't an easy boss. So that was the start of my beautiful journey. Here when I started learning 2 important things. Time management, which I'm still working on until today, because at the time I had to be in the top of my class in school for me to keep my job. And the second thing, never settle for what I have. Always aim higher and dream bigger. Fast forward few years later. It was 2006 when I began grade 12 struggle. Typical story. I'm sure you have heard this story hundreds, maybe thousands of times. It's the year that will determine my future. It's the year that will define who I am. Family with so much expectations. Society with so much pressure. Teachers that had so much determination to bring the best out of me and my colleagues. Grade 12 was a real struggle, trust me. I always say, if they pay me millions of riyals, I would never go back to that year. Short story long, I didn't do as great as everyone thought I would. So I felt like a failure. This was the first time I feel fail. And I never wanted to feel that feelings again. By that year, the government was applying the new administration center system. It's when you apply online and you get accepted as per your grades. So you cannot just roam around colleges and universities. So I got accepted in a college that didn't meet my family's expectations, nor myself. Yet I still kept the positive thought. I kept telling myself that I will define who I am, no matter what college I go to. So 2007 passes, I did well. Second year, I just knew this is not what I wanted. See, when you're 17, 18 years old, you're still figuring out life. Maybe you don't know what you want, but you definitely know what you don't want. So I needed to do something about it. I started researching for scholarship around the world, and I didn't want my father to be worried about paying me because I believed that I was good enough to get myself a scholarship. I remember it was the second year when Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid has launched the scholarship of studying communication. and they only accept people from the 22 Arabic countries, and there were only 7 available seats. So the competition was real. I remember I used to tell my little brother, I would give you anything if you pose on the ad, because the ad of the scholarship will come on the TV. At the time, social media wasn't in its peak, so I had to do it the traditional way. I kept waiting on that ad until one day I posted on the ad, I got the email, I sent all the documents. I still have that email until today, and I remember all the requirements. It wasn't easy for me to get all the requirements. They asked for 10, 12, and 11 certificate, TOEFL, my English wasn't so good, an essay, why should I be accepted, and all of that. Anyhow, I did, I applied. A month later, I got the conditional acceptance. That was the easy part. The hard part was I had to drop out of college before I get acceptance in the university I wanted. And I have to make that clear. By then, I didn't tell anyone of my family. I wanted to get the scholarship, then surprise them. It was a new chance for me. It was a new opportunity. It was a new chapter that's about to start. That must be a price that I had to pay, and the price was taking risk. So I did. I remember I told my father that my cousin were going shopping to Dubai. So I told my father that I'm going with them, but I actually asked them to take me to do the examination and the interview and take my original papers. So I did. Fast forward a few months later, I still remember the scene. I was watching cartoon with my nephew, and he wouldn't turn the TV off, and the volume was so loud. So I run, and I hear this Lebanese lady from the administration of the American University in Dubai saying, "Congratulations, Manal, you got the MBRSC scholarship, and you are to be enrolled into the next semester." It was one of the most beautiful feeling of success that I would never forget. I ran to my father, I told him, and then we went for the last interview and for the campus visit. He was very proud, and I was very happy. Because I got the scholarship after, I would say, an emotional struggle more than anything, I appreciated every single moment of university. I appreciated every single class, every teacher, every training of opportunity. The sense of feeling of appreciation increased 100 times more. Since then, I never took anything in life for granted, as maybe I got it easy, but I am sure someone else in the world is struggling to get it. Anything good. Good health, good education, good family, good friends, good boss. Appreciation is key. Since then, I promised myself to put targets every year. Being target-oriented is also key. And to conclude, I would like to say that if you want to do something, do it now. Do it today. Today you are younger. Today you are stronger. Today you have less responsibilities than tomorrow. Today you're taking risk less than tomorrow. And most importantly, we need to accept that we won't always make the right decisions. We will fail sometimes. Well, and understanding failure is not opposite of success, is part of success. At the end, thank you for giving me a chance to share a small chapter of my life that I strongly appreciate. And once again, I'm very, very proud to be one of you ladies who are contributing strongly in building our beautiful country, Oman. Thank you.
Thank you, Manal, for sharing your heartfelt story with us. I'd just like to remind everyone that towards the end of the session, we will have a panel discussion segment. And if you have any questions throughout the session, please just ask your question in the chat box, and we will answer them accordingly towards the end. Our next speaker is Anna Marie Dowling, who is the Area General Manager at IHG Oman and the General Manager of Intercontinental Muscat. Anna Marie Dowling is has been the area general manager for 7 IHG Oman properties. Anna, who is also the general manager at Intercontinental Muscat, is the first woman to take over the role at the 43-year-old property. With more than 27 years of experience in the hospitality industry, Anna has worked in various roles across properties in the UK and the Middle East. Prior to this role, she worked as the Complex General Manager at the Western Bahrain City Centre and Le Meridian Bahrain City Centre. Before her stint in Bahrain, she was the general manager at the Sofitel London Heathrow and the Royal Horse Guards. Anna, who started her hospitality career with the Holiday Inn in housekeeping and worked her way up to general manager via operational roles, she first became a general manager in London in 1998 and is now delighted to be running the iconic Intercontinental Muscat and has just completed her first year in Amman.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you all once again for inviting me along to speak with you today with these other inspiring ladies and share the journey of my career and achievements with you. Firstly, I would like to start by saying that unlike Manal, I was not an academically gifted child. Unlike most of you, I did not do very well at school. I spent more time talking than concentrating, and every single school Okay. So sorry, we're just trying to deal with some technical hitches here. This is the joys of doing things on online and remotely instead of in real life. So third time lucky. I'm now going to start my speech for the third time, and hopefully this time everybody can hear me fine. So thank you again for inviting me along to speak with you today and share the journey of my career and achievements with you alongside these other inspiring ladies. So firstly, I'd like to by sharing with you that I was not an academically gifted child. Unlike Manal, I did not do well at school. I spent more time talking and dreaming than I spent concentrating. Every school report I had said I could do better, but ultimately I was just not a person that thrived in an academic environment. Like many others I know, I fell into the hospitality business by accident. I started working as a waitress in a local restaurant when I was 17, and immediately I could see the potential of this business. At the time, I was studying my A-levels at college, but not really enjoying what I was doing and with no clear idea about what I was going to do after I finished this. After a few weeks of working in the restaurant, I came home and told my parents that I wanted to give up these studies and go and do a catering college to do a diploma in hotel and catering. They were truly horrified. I think at the time they thought I was telling them that I was going to be a waitress for the rest of my life. And they did all they could to dissuade me, including telling me there were no places at the catering college. And here was one of my first key lessons in life. If you're absolutely sure about something and your gut feels it's the right thing to do, trust your intuition and stick to your decision, no matter how much other people may try to prevent or dissuade you. I know how hard and difficult it can be when your parents do not support the vision you have for your life. Initially, they were not happy and they did not want me to pursue this career of choice. So this was my first experience also of learning about resilience. When I was 19, which I have to tell you is a long time ago now, I started my first full-time job as a room attendant, cleaning 16 rooms a day. I joined Holiday Inn Slough Windsor, a hotel close to Heathrow Airport. And after the waitress situation, you can imagine how delighted my parents were about this new phase of my career. But as I mentioned earlier, I realized I was not someone that thrived with studying, but I did recognize that I needed to be trained, professional, and competent in my chosen career. So I joined an international hotel group as a room attendant, hoping if I proved myself in that job, I would be able to progress and get experience in other departments. After 7 long months of working in housekeeping and cleaning rooms, I was accepted in being accepted onto Holiday Inn's in-house trainee program. And this was like a modern day apprenticeship program. I spent the next 2.5 years working on the ground floor in every department in the hotel. This is like at the coalface of a hotel. I learned a huge amount in this time as I learned the hotel's business from the bottom up. And even to this day, I still draw on that experience. I learned how to do things professionally and well. And I also learned how to cut corners, but everything I learned is still useful for me today. For instance, I know every shortcut there is to cleaning a room because I did them all. So when I'm checking rooms in my hotels now, I know where to check if a room attendant may have overlooked cleaning a particular area. I've worked with some truly exceptional managers, and I've worked with some terrible managers. And another lesson is we cannot expect to have a great boss throughout our whole career. The odds just don't work that way. But some of my greatest learnings as I climbed the ladder towards attaining my first management role were from some of my worst managers. Whilst I would be the first to accept working with these types of bosses is and can be incredibly frustrating, I always thought in the back of my mind, well, when I get your job, I will not do it like that. And I gleaned and I learned all I could from their mistakes. So during this time of training, I worked incredibly long hours as well. The hospitality business is not one you enter if you want a guaranteed 8-hour workday. But it is a business you choose if you want every day to be different from the day before. It is a job you choose if you want to try many varied options about the direction that you want to choose your career to go in, but you don't want to commit too quickly. And you want to be able to function different positions under one roof first. And it is a job you choose if you love working with people and if you want to work within great teams and you want to have a job where you have a great deal of fun at work. Hotels in particular can lead you into a career that can give you skills in operations, sales, marketing, HR, finance, revenue management, engineering, culinary, housekeeping, just to name just a few of the options open within our doors. I've worked diligently and hard over the years, from ground floor positions in each department, becoming a supervisor, from a supervisor to a head of department. I mainly traveled up through the food and beverage side of the business as I liked the variety of the work very much there. Being a head of department for several years, I joined the senior ranks of management and joined an executive committee of a hotel. I think it's incredibly important that you set yourself goals. Throughout my whole working life, I've set myself goals. When I started my first job as a room attendant, I set myself a goal then that I wanted to be a general manager of a 5-star hotel. And I used to tell people that, and they would laugh because I don't think they thought that when I was a 19-year-old fresh-faced girl working in housekeeping, anybody at that time believed I would make this goal. But I was determined and I never lost sight of this dream. In fact, at one point when I was at Holiday Inn, I used to clean the general manager's office and I used to sit in his chair when he wasn't there, obviously. And I would imagine what it would be like to have an office like his. And through thick and thin, I never lost sight of this goal. It took 13 years to achieve this dream, and I achieved my first general manager appointment in 1998 at the age of 32. I was a general manager in London for 14 years, and for the last few years there, I kept thinking, I really want to get some international experience. And once again, I set my goals in January 2013. I took up a new appointment as general manager of Sofitel Heathrow. Sorry, more technical charge. So I started at Sofitel Heathrow in January 2013, and I decided at that point I would take that job for 3 years, and I would then take my next role would be an international role. So from January 2013 to January 2016, at the age of 51, I flew to Bahrain to run the Meridian and West End City Centre in Manama. And after 3.5 years there, I was very blessed to be offered my current role here in Amman as Area General Manager for IHG, responsible for 7 hotels, as well as being General Manager of the iconic Intercontinental Muscat as well. I think back to all those years ago and people laughing and saying, whoever heard of a room attendant becoming a General Manager? And I have the satisfaction of staying true to that goal and I set all those years ago, and also proving all those people wrong. The beauty of our industry is there are no glass ceilings, particularly for women. You don't need to have an MBA or a degree, but of course these can help your progression. But if you have determination, drive, and you're prepared to work hard, you can get to wherever you aspire to be within the hospitality business. I'm a firm believer that your destiny rests in your hands. As I mentioned several times, I've set goals throughout my career and I've achieved them with focused, single-minded determination. Of course, it's not plain sailing all the way, and it will not be so for you in your careers either. There will be challenges, there will be roadblocks, and there will be setbacks, and you must be prepared for those. Over the years, I've seen so many people with great talent fall at the first hurdle and not realize their true potential because their strength of desire to achieve their goal just wasn't strong enough. The first time I applied to be a general manager, my dream job for all those years, I was not successful. Of course, I was disappointed, but I also realized I wasn't ready. It wasn't meant to be at this time. I spent a further 2 years learning, and although I was a good operations manager, I realized I needed to know more about the commercial side of running a hotel. And as a result, when I did achieve my dream, I was much more experienced in the art of leadership. And as a result, I was a much better general manager than if I'd been successful 2 years previously. So I want to finish by sharing a few key lessons that I've learned along the way in my career. Always try to be as optimistic as you can, even if you're facing challenges. Firstly, nobody wants to be led by a pessimist. It is really important that you do not project your anxieties onto your team. They will always be aware and they will watch closely to your reactions to events that happen in the business, and then they will set their barometer for their reaction to their team against yours. Treat people fairly. You will always like and get on with some people more than others. That's life. But make sure that you're impartial and unbiased and develop a reputation for doing the right thing for the business and not to retain the approval of a favored few. Having an engaged team can create business results that far exceed even your own expectations. I'm a huge believer in creating a culture where appreciation, recognition, and thanks are part of the DNA of the business. Time and time again, when workforces are asked what would make them happier in the workplace, believe it or not, it's not a pay rise. It's not better conditions at work. It's just someone to say thank you if they've done a good job. Make sure your focus is about the future, not the past. You will always be faced with a huge amount of change. Now, these days in business, change is faster than it's ever been before. So don't look back and hope for things to go back the way they were, because they will not. Be prepared to innovate. This pandemic has and will continue to change the hospitality business beyond all recognition. We are constantly having to adapt and embrace new regulations from the government, from our owners, from IHG itself. The way I used to run the hotels has gone, and it may never return, and I need to lead and prepare our teams for that. Be prepared for failure and for the fact you will make mistakes. It's impossible to go through life and avoid this. Mistakes are often major learning curves and an important ingredient of gaining experience. Every single leader in the world has made mistakes, but the most important thing here is you take responsibility, you acknowledge, and you learn from your mistakes. And the last and most important point of all I want to share with you is whatever you choose to do in your career, make sure it's something you really have a passion for. We spend too much time at work to allow this to be taken up by something you do not really enjoy. And in the course of my career, I've observed literally hundreds of people doing a job out of a habit and not because it's something they really want to get up and do in the morning. Having recently lost a close friend, I'm very aware there is no rewind button on life. It is a gift, and we have a duty to ensure we live life to the full every single day. If there's an aspect about your life you're not happy about, now or in the future, the only person that can change that is you. You are responsible for your own happiness. One thing's for sure, nobody else will take responsibility for it. So you must take the responsibility to ensure you choose a career that makes you feel motivated and fulfilled, that makes you want to get up in bed, out of bed in the morning and embrace the day ahead and not be counting the days off till your next day off. It has been my passion to be in hospitality for nearly 40 years, and I have never regretted 1 second of persuading my parents to allow me to enter the wonderful world of hotel. So thank you very much again for inviting me to share my journey with you today.
Okay, so I'd like to thank Anna Marie for sharing her inspirational story and showing us that the tourism industry is extremely dynamic in the sense that we can start from the bottom and make it all the way to the top. And I'd also like to apologize to our speaker and our attendees on the technical difficulty that we faced. At the end of the day, we're all trying to be tech savvy with this whole COVID-19 situation. So thank you for your patience, and hopefully it's going to be a smooth sailing moving forward. And for our next speaker, I'd like to introduce Wisal Al-Rashdi. Wisal Al-Rashdi is a certified Omani tour guide. She joined the guiding industry because of her love for traveling and exploring different cultures. Wisal grew up exploring Amman with her parents and wanted to genuinely be able to offer visitors a great experience when visiting the Sultanate. Wisal started an online Instagram page called this.guide, follow her, when she noticed that we don't have enough female guides and wanted to encourage more females to join the guiding industry. Wisal started with an online talk series aimed at sharing female stories and discussing different topics related to tour guiding. She is now involved in several projects to do with tourism and continues to support and encourage females to become guides and join the tourism industry as well.
Okay. Hello. Hi, everyone. Good morning. I really hope you can hear me. My name is Wasala Rashdi, and I am a tour guide. It is an honor for me to be here today with these amazing women and to be given the opportunity by OTC to be able to speak to you and to be present with an amazing audience as well. So thank you for having me. Thank you for supporting me. And also, I would like to thank the college because it was them that really started supporting me when I first started my page online. But before I start talking about that, I will tell you a little bit about myself. And I'm sure a lot of you have been curious to know my story because I focus a lot of my energy online on sharing other people's stories, and I try to avoid talking about myself as much as possible. And it's not in a bad way, it's just so that I can give other people the opportunity to share their stories. But today I'll tell you a little bit about myself. And I'll tell you a little bit about how I actually ended up being online. So here goes. I'm a typical Omani woman. Grew up in the 90s. I didn't study tourism, so a lot of people do ask me this question. I grew up not really knowing what I was passionate about. And every time a person would ask me, what are you really passionate about? I would say, I don't know. And that was something I always felt like I needed to look for. I felt like everyone at certain points in life would just seek their passion and go out there and try to find their passion. And I felt like I had to do that. But then I also said, and I told myself that it will come to me when the time is right. And I always believe that timing is of the essence. And that time, if you have patience, it will really happen for you when the time is right. So I grew up being a very curious child. And like it was mentioned previously, my childhood was all about me exploring Amman with my parents. My parents wanted us to see the world. But before we got a chance to see the world, they really wanted us to grow up seeing Amman. And every weekend, that is what we did. We would pack our lunches and we would go in my dad's tiny little car, wherever it can take us, and we would explore different parts of Amman. From wadis to mountains, the desert, the beaches, we've seen it all growing up. And that is what kind of started that passion in me. I just didn't know that it would lead me to tourism or to guiding, to be honest. And so when I finished high school, I left to Scotland, where I spent 4 years studying human resource management, which again has nothing to do with tourism. I came back to Amman after graduating, having so many international friends. And so I decided, again, I started a career, very normal, nothing to do with tourism yet. I traveled around the world to visit my friends. I attended around 4 international weddings. And that is when I started realizing that I enjoyed being in so many diverse, different cultural backgrounds and being with people who are very different, that I wanted to do something for Amman. And so I started asking myself, and this literally happened right after taking a nap on a Friday. I was just sitting down and thinking to myself, I wonder what kind of experience tourists have when they come here. And so, being the typical millennial that I am, I started doing a Google search, and I searched and searched online to find as many female guides as I can, and I couldn't find any. And I searched again, and I couldn't find any. And then I started asking people. So I said, I will not stop here. I'll start emailing people. And so I started emailing every company I found on Google to tell them that I wanted to know more about tourism and that I was interested to become a female guide. I didn't get a response from any of the companies that I emailed, except for one organization that were curious, not about me wanting to become a tour guide, but the fact that I was a female wanting to become a tour guide. And that's when I knew that there was something strange in the market. There was a gap somewhere that I needed to discover. I started by exploring different trips, by observing and learning on the field. And then I decided this was something I wanted to do. And this was something I wanted to pursue. And so I started guiding. I guided in Muscat. I guided outside of Muscat. I guided even with my dad. I took him along with my trips. And I started small, really. I started with small groups, and then I started doing the buses. And I was on demand because I was a female, and I couldn't believe it. It was basically, I started getting these phone calls of all kinds of companies saying, can you do this tour for us, or can you do that tour? And I wasn't even certified at the time. And that is when I realized there might not be enough females out there. So every time I went on a tour, my sole purpose was to find a female guide. I would walk around and be like, where are the other female guides here today? And the other male guides would just look at me like, what are you even talking about? And so that's when I knew something needed to happen. And this was around a year ago when I realized that I needed to be more involved in this field. I needed to be more involved to find women, to locate them, and also to encourage them to stay in this field. And maybe to encourage women to join guiding as well. So when I started my journey to become certified, I went for my interview. at the Ministry of Tourism at the time. I got certified. I started talking to my friends. I told them that this is what's happening, this is the situation. I approached some of my friends in the creative field, some of my friends who were not working in tourism, and I wanted to kind of start merging their fields into tourism and look at ways in which we can make tourism more creative. And my whole idea was to have this face to face. I wanted it to be around only 5 women sitting in a cafe, sipping tea, and talking about our passion. But that's not what happened. The pandemic started, and I realized that what I wanted to do would have to be put on pause. And so I did nothing. For around 3 months, I just sat there in despair, thinking, what can I do? And eventually I decided it needs to go online. And it was something I've been thinking about for around a year, but I knew that in order for me to go online, I would have to go public. And being a Omani woman who chooses to go public, it was not an easy decision for me to make that decision. But so I did, because I felt that the women that I was meeting in this field were extraordinary, and that their stories needed to be shared, and that people needed to hear their stories. And that maybe by hearing their stories, women like you who are watching me here today would be inspired and would want to do more and would want to be more involved in tourism. And that's how this guide started. So I started my page online. I approached a few of the ladies that I knew in the field. They all never shared their stories before. So first of all, they were a bit surprised that I contacted them. They asked me why I wanted them to share their stories, because they're just ordinary women who work in an ordinary job, but that's what they think and that's how they see themselves. They don't realize that their existence in this field is unique. And I tried to explain to them that by sharing your stories, other women will hear your stories and maybe they'll be inspired and want to join. And a lot of these women that I shared their stories online, obviously I used a Zoom platform to do that. It was the first time they speak. It was the first time they tell their stories, they tell their struggles, they tell the challenges that they've been through. For me personally, I come from a very lucky background. I have supportive parents. I have a supportive family. I wouldn't say that everything came very easily to me, but I realized that I had a very different upbringing and a very different approach to some of the women that had to be introduced to this field. I realized that some of these women had to fight sometimes cultural barriers, sometimes even the closest people to them, to be where they are today. And that is why I started this guide. I felt that in order for me to share my story, I must tell yours and I must share your story. I also realized that there were topics in tourism that weren't covered, or maybe weren't covered online. And so I started hosting different talks and asking different people from different fields to come in and look at ways in which we can merge together. And that's how we had different talks on Zoom. One of the talks that we had that I think it was done for the first time, is creative tourism, where I invited the creative team and the creative society in Oman to join me and to listen to me talk about tourism and to share ideas in which they can be involved in tourism as well. I wanted to open the eyes of the people who are following me and to realize that tourism is a huge field. I keep saying this a lot, and you guys know that from the ones who watch me online. Tourism is an ocean, and I feel like we're only swimming in one part of it. And we need to start going out there a lot more. We need to start exploring other choices. We need to start exploring diversity, creativity, and inclusion, including females, obviously. But that is what we need to start doing. And that's why I started this guide. So what happened ever since I started? Where am I today? For those of you who know and who follow me, I started my page in June, so it hasn't been that long. But there's so much that happened to me. My life has changed drastically since then. I've been meeting guides. I've been introduced to different fields in guiding. And I've been introduced to different fields in tourism as well. I've been meeting adventurers. I've been on adventures myself, because I told myself, if I'm going to encourage you to join the field of tourism and different fields, I have to experience it myself as well. And so I've been facing my fears. My fear of deep water, claustrophobia, and fearness of the dark. I've been facing all of them over the past three months, just so that I can show you guys that you can do it as well. If I can do it, you can definitely do it. Where I am today, after the birth of this guide, a good friend of mine, Noor Al-Madri, approached me and told me that she is thinking of starting a platform that will honor women achievements who are athletes and adventurers. And so I said, go for it. And she did. And we brainstormed the name Hunna, which I came up with, and later became partner in this platform. And from that, a different opportunity was born. I've also been involved in different fields in tourism, like the adventure field. I'm not an adventure guide, and I say this all the time. However, I feel that it is important to network as much as possible if you want to learn about this industry. Get to know the people in the industry, get to know your competition, get to know what is out there, understand the market, understand how it works, find the gaps so you know what you want to do next. A lot of people ask me, why do you do what you do? And I told them that I do what I do because I love what I do. And I do what I do because I want to inspire other women to do what they love as well. And I'm proud of every female that is here in this room today, of their accomplishments, of their achievements, of everything that they will keep accomplishing in the future. This is just an example. You know, when I was asked to come and speak here today, I thought to myself, why do we celebrate Women's Day? Why is it important that we must celebrate the achievements of women here today? And it is important to remind ourselves of everything that we've achieved and everything that we can achieve in the future. This is why we celebrate Women's Day. It's for you to see that we're just ordinary people who come from ordinary lives, who've made it where we are, and we're still working hard to reach goals. And it's also for you to realize that you can do it as well, and that you're not alone. To the females who are watching me, I'm getting a bit emotional, but to the females who are watching me here today, if I can do it, then you can do it as well. And you are not alone. If you come from a background where you're struggling, I'm here for you. And other females are here for you too. And I waited for this opportunity to be here today to tell you that. So thank you very much for your support. I'm crying a little bit, but it's tears of joy. Thank you. People give me tissues. Thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting me. And thank you for continuing to support me. We are strong together. And we can do this. And I cannot wait to see what the future holds for females in tourism. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Wasal, for sharing your story. Like that really felt like it came from the heart. Okay, so to our final speaker, Ghania Al Mawali, Client Services Account Manager from Amman Sale. So a little bit about Ghania. She's driven by a desire to serve her nation. Ghania Al Mawali has devoted more than half of her career to date towards contributing to Amman's tourism industry. She currently holds the position of Client Services Account Manager with Amman Sail, the national initiative that promotes the Sultanate of Amman through sailing. Her role revolves around strengthening strategic relationships with external organizations that support Amman Sail and share similar objectives to raise Amman's profile and inspire the youth through sports. Prior to her current position, Ghania worked as a marketing specialist for Muria Tourism Development. I'm smiling because I used to work as a marketing specialist at Muria. Oman's largest and most diversified private real estate and tourism developer, where her team planned and executed marketing projects in order to drive sales and footfall to the destinations in Jebel Sifa and Salalah. Ghania's passion for learning had led her to her undergraduate degree in media and communications, a major that would be enjoyable to her and valuable to the Amani market at the University of Murdoch in Malaysia in 2011. She then sensed a need for further professional growth, which led her to pursue her MBA with the University of Bedfordshire via Majan University College in 2018. Ghania's enthusiasm and commitment to personal development has seen her confidently take on new challenges in different environments throughout her career.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me? Yeah? Loud? Clear? Wow, Wasal. I'm getting goosebumps from your from your talk. Mashallah, mashallah. All of you women are amazing. A big thank you to all of the lovely speakers who've shared their experiences today, and a special thank you to Oman Tourism College for allowing me to have this opportunity to speak and share my journey in tourism with you. I don't think I could have imagined a better first time talk for me than right here, right now at this event. So thank you again. In the next 10 minutes, I'm going to share my insight from Oman Sale that shows how the power of sports can encourage tourism in Oman. I never thought I would be in tourism industry. So first, I'd like to tell a little bit about my journey before Oman Sale. And uh, yeah, I grew up as a kid who was only focused on school. I hardly ever explored our country, apart from going on family picnics at Yiti Beach when I was 7. By the time I had finished school, I was so excited to pack up and head to Malaysia for my university degree that the beauty of Oman was still largely unknown to me until graduating. I was majoring in communications and media, similar to Manal. And in the early years, we were taught e-media, an interesting subject in 2009, where we were discussing online content when it was becoming a huge topic. So blogs, YouTube, and Facebook were the big hits back then. Our course assignment structure was simple: a group project that requires us to create and write weekly original content on a theme that we agree on as a group, and we post it electronically on a blog. We were a group of 5 girls who agreed on hiking as a blog theme, and we named our blog backpackingchicks.blogspot.com. At the age of 21, I was not familiar with the concept of hiking, but I thought it would be super cool to explore sites that I would have never gone on my own. I was blown away by these weekly trips, from detailing little trails that led us to waterfalls and climbing mountains with stunning sunrise views at the peak. Our weekly blog was a hit. The entire class was looking forward to our next adventure. And needless to say, we scored straight A's in that subject. I do believe that that was a huge turning point for me. The moment when I wanted to explore my love for nature in my own country. I was then returning to Oman every winter and would constantly be out and about, visiting villages, wadis, mountains. My love and passion for Oman's nature and heritage site just grew from there. Fast forward to 2012, I'm back in Oman for a full year in a temporary job, but on the lookout for a permanent role. That's when I stumbled upon Oman Sail. I had little to no knowledge about the organization or sailing, but with a little research, I was able to understand more. And after 3 rounds of interviews, I was given this beautiful opportunity to join the team and gain a new insight into what it means to represent Oman through sports. Before joining and gaining this experience, I always wondered, how did sport really impact tourism? I learned a few things so far. Sports creates opportunities to bring people together and provides a platform to introduce new audiences to you and to your country. It also offers the chance to share our culture and traditions with them, leaving a positive impression of a destination they may now consider visiting. Oman Sales' 2 main focuses in tourism are representing Oman internationally and hosting world-class events in Oman. Let's start with representing Oman internationally. Imagine this. We are on the northwestern coast of France in a place that I'm not familiar with, but in the sailing world, it is renowned for hosting major international sailing races. Alongside our 70-foot flagship boat, branded with Oman Tourism slogan and the Omani flag, we have a team of young Omanis setting up a beautiful exhibition that's in the public race village, where thousands of people will visit us and would get what I would call a five senses experience of what Oman is about. The smell of frankincense, the taste of Omani coffee, the feel and taste of Omani dates, visuals all around showcasing Oman's natural landscapes, and our team members dressed up in Omani traditional clothing. And finally, every single one of us gets to share our own story about Oman, what it's like to live there, the natural scenes, the hospitality, the traditions. How magical is this experience for someone who might have never ever heard of us? These experiences were truly lived on to the fullest because every single one of us had a beautiful story to tell these people about our Oman. And for me, it was so natural to talk passionately about our beautiful landscapes and the adventures one can have. These were unforgettable experiences that I'll forever be proud of and grateful for. Now, let's move on to hosting world class events in Oman. Throughout the years I've been working with Oman Sail, I've had the pleasure of welcoming one event after the other here in Oman. Whether it was in sailing, cycling, or running, we had the opportunity to host thousands of international guests who were visiting Oman for the very first time to either participate or attend as media or corporate guest. We would always ensure that they would not leave Oman without experiencing local activities and enjoying local cuisines, wadi adventures, or visiting heritage sites. I'm so proud that over the 10 years that Oman Sail's been operating, we've had the privilege to host over 50 events in Oman and welcomed over 27,000 participants. It gives me so much pride to connect with these visitors, showcasing warm hospitality, warm Omani hospitality that leaves a positive memory in their minds and hearts so that they look forward to coming back. And many of them do return long after these events are wrapped up. Everything I've shared today is what the current generation has discovered about sports being a major contributor to tourism. And this leads me to wonder what else could emerge and contribute to Oman's tourism industry? I invite you all to share my curiosity and explore new creative avenues to contribute towards this ongoing development of Oman's tourism. I cannot wait to see what comes next. And thank you so much for having me. And I look forward to our panel discussion. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ghania, for sharing your journey with us. And our next segment, as mentioned earlier, is the panel discussion. I am just working on unmuting everyone so that we're all here. Okay, we're all here. Yay. All right, so we have a few questions lined up for our speakers. And if we have extra time towards the end, we will consider the questions that our attendees have asked in the chat box. In the meantime, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat box and I will screen them in between. Thank you. So my first question is to Manal.
Yes.
Okay, Manal, my question to you is how would you say does the COVID-19 pandemic impact your ability to carry out your tasks as a woman in tourism?
First of all, I would say like the first month we didn't feel it as much. We were still going in March when the first two cases appeared in Oman. So we were still having events at the Oman Convention Center. We're still didn't know this pandemic will be as big as it is. I would say the first 2 months, I didn't feel it as much. The third month, when we started working from home and the changes that happened, it impacted me emotionally, I would say, more than anything. I am a very active person. I always say I'm married to my job. So it's everything that I have. It's everything that I love to do. So working from home wasn't an easy thing for me. I work in the events industry, so I meet a lot of people, a lot of clients. I have my colleagues and all of that. So it was very hard emotionally, but I only give myself 2 weeks to to just learn how to work with the pandemic, and this is the situation. So I picked myself together. I started working harder. I learned how to work from home, and I would say like it became a lifestyle after how many months? 6, 7, 8 months. So it became a lifestyle. I don't think it impacted me as much as other women, probably because I'm still single, and working, you can work from, like I have learned that working can be happen from anywhere in the world as long as we have the technology and all of that. So simply that's my answer. Thank you for the question.
Thank you, Manal, for sharing your answer with us. My next question is to Wisal. With the tourism sector on pause for quite some time, what are some virtual activities you engaged in to maintain communication with the industry and be up to date to what is going on? I know you shared some of it earlier, but if you can just give us some more details in that aspect.
Right. So what I started doing was we hosted talks throughout the month of June and July. The talks happened almost on a weekly basis. It was on Zoom, quite informal. We would have like a presentation and we would have photos of the speakers and they would tell their stories, or we would have a talk aimed at a specific subject. The most recent talk I had was around a week ago. It was on collaborations in tourism. We spoke about the importance of collaborations. It was more of an open discussion where I invited owners of different companies to come together and talk about how we could collaborate, how healthy collaboration leads to healthy competition. And also we spoke about some of the challenges that we have in that field. Another thing I do online as well is Instagram live sessions. So for those who would want to discuss something with me, but not necessarily in a very big talk, we would have an Instagram live session where we would go live together. We would choose a topic beforehand and we would just chill and talk, really. It's quite informal, so it's very chill. Everyone's just there asking questions. We would answer questions. The most popular talk I've had is a guide for guides, which was basically aimed specifically for guides to talk them through the process of getting licensed, how to get licensed, what kind of skills do you need to go into guiding, and we also answer questions. So I would answer questions. I would host other guides. I was very happy to have a fellow colleague, I would call her also friend, Ahlam Al Harthi, who works for the Ministry of Tourism, who was there in the talk to kind of give insight, answer questions. Because when I went for my interview, I was very nervous and I didn't do very well in my interview. So I wanted people who applied for the license to at least have like a backstory, like to know how to prepare basically before they go for their interview. I can hear myself quite a lot. Before they go for the interview. So Ahlam was there and she kind of instructed them on what they need to do, how to prepare for the interview, what to expect on the day of the interview, which was what made me nervous. But I'm sure by knowing that, a lot of them now feel a lot more confident going for their interview. So that's what I've been doing. I've also been involved in Hunna, which is a platform that celebrates women achievements who are athletes and adventurers. And we're hoping to be able to post some content on there soon. Stay tuned. Very excited for that.
Okay. Hi. Thank you for sharing that with us, Wasan. My next question is to Anna. The question is, what have you learned during the pandemic with regards to the tourism sector? And what are your post-pandemic expectations?
I just want to check, can you hear me? Yes.
Yes.
It's working. I think what I've learned during this pandemic is to expect the unexpected. I think when we first went into this in February and March, we did not think we would be at the end of October, November, and still really deep in the depths of the pandemic. I think we need to be prepared to embrace change at very short notice. I think the recovery is going to be a lot longer than any of us initially expected. But I also think that creates great opportunity. I think with the other ladies here, you have to think about tourism in Oman differently. As hotels, we have to think, how do we engage more proactively with other aspects of tourism, with people that live in Oman? Because whilst there are no tourist visas here, we all have to think creatively. We all have to be more innovative about how do we bring people into our business.
Thank you. So I have that same question directed to Manal. What have you learned during the pandemic with regards to the tourism sector, and what are your post-pandemic expectations?
Well, the pandemic hit the tourism sector the hardest. I would say for the Oman Convention and Exhibition Center, 2020 was such an amazing year for us, but then COVID-19 happened. The expectation for us after the pandemic are very high. So I think I'm hearing myself twice. So yeah, so I think it's better. So we are working very hard to come back stronger after the pandemic. We have a massive, huge masterpiece, the Oman Convention and Exhibition Center. So we have more than 100,000 square meter. So we can host the biggest events with social distancing, with all the measurement requirements, with all the safety measurements. So we have been working on guides. We have been doing a lot of the virtual events. We have been trying a lot of things to come back very stronger and better. So, and what I have learned also is it is very important for us to work together. So all the partners in tourism sectors has to come together, because we cannot overcome this unless we work together, because working individual might help, but not as much as us working with the hotels, working with other convention centers in the region and around the world, learning from each other's experience. We see some of the countries are going back to business, and we have to learn what they have done and what they have learned as well. So yes, I hope this pandemic finishes soon. We're so excited to go back to business. Tourism sector has been affected really strongly, and I hope together we can make this happen.
Thank you, Manal, for answering that question. And my next question is to Anna again. What advice do you give women working in tourism on how to cope and coexist with the coronavirus as businesses are starting to open up, but shutting down? Yeah.
I think really you've just got to keep to the basics in terms of working in tourism and how to cope and coexist along this with this virus. And the three basics are basically keep your social distance, wear your mask, and wash your hands regularly. And if you keep these three basics in place, whatever you're doing, whether at work or at home or ever, you will stay safe. And that's really just the most basic thing we can all do to keep ourselves and protect ourselves in this business with this coronavirus, because as I say, I think it's going to be with us for a while. And so we just need to think about how can we be more flexible? How can we be more flexible as employers, allowing people to work from home where they might feel safer sometimes, and also aligning against the needs of the business. Hotels is difficult because, you know, they're open 365 days a year, 24 hours a day. So we are constantly looking at how can we be more creative with how we run our business and fulfill the needs of safety, and also try and drive our top line revenues and keep our business operating as efficiently and as profitably as we can. Although profit's not something many of us have made in the last few months, but hopefully it's something that will return soon.
Thank you, Anna. We have that same question directed to Ghania. To repeat, it is, what advice do you give women working in tourism on how to cope and coexist with the coronavirus as businesses are starting to open up?
So just to add on Anna's comments, I was thinking of it from a sorry. Hello?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm just adding on to what Anna was saying on a smaller scale, which is to use this, let's say, pause as an opportunity to reflect and see what are the real impacts you want to make, and starting small while still dreaming big. In Oman Sail, we've recently been focusing more on our sailing programs, on our different assets that might have been a bit quieter than the other events. But now that all our events are on pause, we have enough time to really, see their true value and see how we can leverage them to support Oman and make an impact. Even on a personal note, like I started focusing on things that I never thought I would during this quiet time. Like I've had a huge personal creative journey that I added to my life that I'm so grateful for, from just because of this, quiet time that's hit us. So yeah, that's what I'd like to say.
Okay. The next question is also directed to Ghania. It says, what do you love most about what you do? And please share your most memorable experience representing Amman abroad.
Well, we used to go, I think, at least two trips a year to different places. But I think the biggest one was the last one that we had, which was in 2014 in France, in a place called Saint Malo, which as a little town on the shore was magical. But it was known to host the biggest sailing race at the time, which was called Route du Rhum, and that was by far the biggest sailing event, I think, internationally, if I remember. It's been a long time. And we were there for 2 full weeks. We obviously set up before, and we decorated the whole exhibition with Omani artifacts, with imagery showing our natural sites, with imagery of the Royal Opera House, of our Grand Mosque, and just being there. And obviously we have our team with dates and qahwa, and we had bukhur. So it's a full fuala experience. And yeah, and we were the only exhibition that looked like that, out of the hundreds of stalls that were there, showing whatever, like sporting gears and stuff. And people would come in and like be in surprise, like, what is this? Wow, Oman? Ooh. And then they just look around in amazement. And we are there just telling them, yes, this is where we are. We have different landscapes. You've got so many heritage sites to see. Like whatever you dream of seeing in a new country, you probably would find it in Oman. So doing that, and obviously the whole objective of it was to drive tourism to Oman. And we had a little like a little questionnaire and a competition to win a trip, so that would excite them to come. And just like those 2 weeks of telling people about who we are, where we're from, what we do, was so it was so special. I think it might be the most memorable trip for me.
Thank you. The next question, we have it directed to Anna Marie. And the question is, someone's asking if you think there's room to join the hotel industry during the pandemic, realistically speaking, or whether people should wait until the pandemic is over to pursue their dream.
You can hear me? Yeah.
Yes.
There is always time to join the hotel industry. And even if the jobs are not available just now, this is a great time to connect with different hotels and maybe even volunteer and get some experience and see what goes on behind the doors of the hotel. So whilst there will not be a lot of recruitment going on just now, because most hotels are only running at very low occupancies, and restaurants also have reduced seating. But my advice to you would be reach out to one of those hotels, reach out to our hotel, and we are always waiting with open arms to welcome people into our industry, give them the experience of trying our industry, talking to our people. There are many ways that you can start to do some research to decide whether this is a career choice for you without necessarily taking a job. So volunteering, job experience opportunities are always available in hotels.
Thank you for sharing that. This brings us to our last question. We're running out of time. So the last question I'd like to ask each of our speakers, and I will start with Anna since you're unmuted. Our question is, statistics show that women are less affected by COVID-19. How would you make use of this advantage?
Wow, that's an interesting question.
Yes.
I think wherever there's an opportunity in life, you have to embrace it and you have to take the chance. So if women are less affected, then it means there's more opportunity for progression. There's more opportunity for moving forward. There's more opportunity for achieving your goals. So I would just say, you kind of got to put this COVID into context. It's part of every single person in the world's life at the moment, but it should not be used as a reason or an excuse not to progress with your goals and your dreams in life.
Okay, so that was part of a two-part question.
Right.
The other part of the question is, what opportunities that in your view raised as a result of COVID-19 in both hospitality and aviation?
I think that certainly I can see in my own business now that we have been under pressure to look at our manning levels, look at our structures. And I have to say, this has also given some people a great opportunity to step up into promoted roles, probably way before they would have had the opportunity before if the pandemic hadn't happened. So with everything like this, there is always a chance for something different. And certainly, I have restructured certain departments in my hotels, and I've given people opportunities in my hotels that they wouldn't have had if the pandemic hadn't happened. So I think, again, every cloud has a silver lining.
Thank you for sharing that. And now I'll go on to Manal so that you can answer the same question. To repeat, the question is, statistics show that women are less affected by COVID-19. How would you make use of this advantage?
Actually, funny story. I was asking my colleagues, females and males, about the effect of COVID-19 on women. So the guys will always answer that women are less affected by COVID-19, and the women will talk about how they're affected negatively or strongly or badly by COVID-19. So I'm not sure where the statistics come from, but that only shows how strong women are, and whatever happens, they always have to pick themselves up and be the stronger part of the community. And but I think it's affecting both the genders in the same way. I wouldn't say it's affecting men stronger or women stronger. That's not just the case. But I think women learn how to deal with all kind of situations, maybe in a different way.
And to the second part of the question, what kind of opportunities, in your view, raised as a result of COVID-19 in both hospitality and aviation?
Okay, so for hospitality or event industry, where I come from, we have been going through our processes and procedures. We have been doing a lot of mystery shoppings and trying to just go back to our roots and try to see what we have done wrong in the past, try to fix it to come back stronger. We have been doing a lot of training, and we have been doing things that we couldn't do when we had a lot of events happening. Usually the center is always very busy. And now it was a time for us to just review our procedures, our processes, do some departmental structure, do a lot of trainings and all of that.
Thank you, Manal. And then again, same question to our next two speakers. We have Wisal. Anything else you'd like to add on to what Anna or Manal have shared regarding statistics of women with COVID-19 and what opportunities that you would say have come up due to the pandemic?
Well, I think they covered the bases of everything. I think everything has been covered by these lovely women. But I would say, regardless of what the statistics say, you must understand that this has changed all our lives, regardless of the gender. It doesn't matter whether you're male or female. We've all been affected by this pandemic. We've all had to adapt. We've all had to make changes, working from home. A lot of us have had to do that, and it hasn't been easy for us to do that. A lot of females have to also juggle their families at home. So, in our culture, a lot of the females had to stay at home with their kids. Some of them are having to juggle homeschooling. I know that the government schools are not open, but the international private schools are open. So for a lot of females, it hasn't been easy. They might not be statistically the ones who were most affected. However, there are other aspects of life that we're all sharing together, that we're all going through together. I don't think that a certain gender is having it one way or the other. I think we're all having to adapt equally to this pandemic. We're all having to make changes. And it really comes and shows the resilience of people when facing a pandemic. The changes that we've had to do individually, but also on a corporate level. I don't think that has to do with gender for me personally. And I think that we've all learned to adapt as humans. We are usually resistant to change, any kind of change. But during the course of time, history, there have been pandemics happening throughout history. This is not the first pandemic that humans have to face. And so naturally we would adapt. And I would say that we've adapted in that context.
Thank you, Wasal. And this brings us to our final speaker, Ghania. If you'd like to share any last words or any advice to our speakers, not necessarily regarding the statistics, even though the statistics is being showed in the chat box, 109, 953, where 66,000 are men and 39,000 are women. But just anything else that you'd like to add as the closing?
Stay at home, boys. Simple. Stay at home. No, I similar, like everybody covered everything. Honestly, like just take this quiet time to your advantage. Read, focus on things that you might have never thought you would put attention to. I've read more books during this pandemic than I might have read in 2 years. I've done a lot of work on my mental health, emotional health, spiritual growth. Like just take the opportunity. Obviously, it's a tragedy, and we pray for to overcome this. But like Anna Marie said, that there's a silver lining. So yeah.
All right, so that brings us towards the end of our Lady Leaders 6th edition. Again, I'd like to apologize for the technical difficulties, and thank you so much for being so patient and so accepting with us. We've all learned a lot from this experience, and meeting online is becoming the new norm, and we're really trying to embrace it as much as we can. I'd like to give a shout out to our raffle sponsor, which is a Omani company called Nizha Oman. And it's a company owned by women, and they specialize in adventure and tourism trips across Amman for women. So everyone who has attended today will be part of the raffle, and we will let you know if you're the lucky winner. Again, I'd like to thank you all for attending, especially for our speakers for, again, being very patient and very supportive. We really appreciated that you taken time out of your schedules to join us here today. As a final point, I'd just like to say that together we learn from each other, together we are stronger, and together we are much more impactful. And I wish you all a positive rest of the week, and stay home, wear your masks, and we all need to do our part because it's affecting all of us both locally and internationally.